A very recent press release by yourselves and following a joint decision by the government and NASUWT says school service is to change radically as from Monday. What does radically mean?
So good evening to you and to all your viewers. This is a fast developing situation. The reality is that the way that the school population is now manifesting, 35% of children were in the schools today. And the decision and announcement today in the United Kingdom to close schools in the UK as from Friday and to cancel examinations in A-level and GCSEs means that we're now in a better position to make a decision as to how we're going to run the school buildings going forward to provide the essential service we're going to need for all of our key workers in our economy, principally those on the front line of dealing with COVID-19, those who will be in the GHA, but also behind them our law enforcement agents, our utility workers, all our emergency services, and indeed everyone in our economy who continues to go to work that is somehow helping us to deal with this issue. And that means that as from Monday, we're going to be offering completely different services in our school buildings using our teachers and other volunteers in a way that is going to be designed between the Department of Education and the NASUWT, because the advice we have in Gibraltar has not changed, and we're going to continue acting based on the advice that having our children in these school buildings does not provide any risk to them. It's the safest possible environment to them and the safest possible environment for our teachers. But what we need to do is to ensure that there is a place for our key workers to send their children. And the service we're going to provide there is not going to be the delivery of the national curriculum. It's going to be educational in as much as we are able to provide educational service, but we will change the way schooling is done, and we will also want to know from people as soon as possible that they're going to need the service. So tomorrow and latest Friday, we need a note from parents telling us that they need to avail themselves of the service. We're not going to use every building in Gibraltar because we need to rationalise which buildings we use. If we've only got 35 or less % of the school population, we're going to try and use the buildings where hot lunches are available so that we can feed children. We're looking potentially to extend what days the school is going to be open, what hours the school is going to be open, and it's going to be completely different to what we've done to date.
Well, many people have thought that it perhaps seems counterintuitive when the rest of Europe seems to be closing down the schools, that Gibraltar has not yet done so, but you're doing so on the basis because Gibraltar is a unique situation. There's a unique situation in Gibraltar given the size and the likelihood that grandparents and older people will be interacting with children, which is precisely what we don't want.
How often do we say in better times that Gibraltar is unique and that there's no place like Gibraltar? One of the most unique and fundamentally important things about Gibraltar is our extended family setup. Grandparents are a hugely important part of that extended family setup. When you take grandparents out of that equation, we become unique in a different way. A lot of the people who are on the front line are no longer able to rely on that extended family setup to provide the care that they need. So the government needs to step up, and I must tell you, the way that the teachers are behaving is extraordinary and exemplary, and I thank them for how they are forming part of the decision-making process with us. I think in the United Kingdom that is not the case. Here we're making decisions together, the public health professionals, the Department of Education and the teachers, and in that way we're going to be able to continue to provide that service, with the teachers being the backbone of it, but not the only ones involved in delivering it, so that the unique circumstances of Gibraltar will enable us to keep our frontline workers with their children being cared for and not push the virus back into grandparents, because that is really dangerous. If a key worker had to decide to stay on the front line of providing care and perhaps take the risk with elderly parents who are the grandparents of children, we're going to take that risk away completely. We want the over 70s to be completely away from the risk of catching the virus, whilst the virus is impossible to stop, and we slow the spread of it coming into our community and to our most vulnerable.
And, well, you formalised the situation, so to speak, at the moment. There were children that were essentially playing truant in the last few days. A number of students had said that they were being called at home. Will there be repercussions for those who haven't attended school this week?
No, so what we've announced already is that the Minister for Education, I think I said it in my last press conference 2 days ago, but this is all quite a blur, as much for me as it is for everybody else, of course. The Minister will not be using his powers to require school attendance, which is what the Act requires, because we realise that people are concerned, people are making the decision where they can to keep their children at home with them, which, frankly, is helpful. So we're not going to be using powers in that particular way. but everyone in the schools, whether it's the teachers or all of the other staff of the schools, from the caretakers to the cleaners to the lunch staff to the LSAs, everyone is a hero in the way that we're delivering this service going forward, as well as the many volunteers who are also going to form part of what we do, and those who are deployed from other government departments.
And going forward, we've heard the term key workers several times. Have we formalised, or have you an idea who is a key worker, who isn't? Is there something that somewhere to reference what job do you consider a key role?
So you'll see that in the statement that we've issued tonight, and which people will be able to see on social media already or later, we're saying that if you work in our economy, whatever you do is fundamental now, because if you're still providing that service, that in itself demonstrates that it's fundamental. It could be something less important than being the person that's going to look after people in the ICU, which fast is going to become the key fundamental issue. But whatever you do in our economy, whether you deliver food for one of the delivery services, whether you stock shelves in one of our supermarkets, whatever you do is key and fundamental, and we are there to ensure that you can continue to do so without having to have regard to your children not being looked after. We'll be there to pick up the slack.
And, well, for the students themselves who are experiencing this is going to be particularly stressful for them. Those who have been working towards their exams for close to 2 years. Is there any support network envisaged? Are there going to be measures taken to provide mental health support and general support for them?
We're going to support them at every level, whether it's in question of mental health or indeed to make the argument as hard as we can with the United Kingdom, although I think that they get it, that these children should not be, these students, young people, should not be disadvantaged because of the attempts to slow the spread of the coronavirus. To an extent, they are making a sacrifice too, because all of the work that they've done will need to be recognized, if not through examination, in a different way, so that their passage through university and tertiary education and then into careers is not in any way paralyzed or paused as a result of this. They must, as the whole of the community and the whole of the world moves forward after we've dealt with coronavirus, they must not suffer any consequence as a result of decisions which have been taken out of their hands and in a way that is designed to protect public health and human life. So I'm going to be their strongest advocate. Everyone in my government, all their teachers will be their strongest advocate in ensuring that this bump is one they get over seamlessly going forward.
And given the change in role that schools will have as from Monday, do you envisage a change in the timetable? Will they perhaps more closely reflect the timetables of their parents, which is what we're trying to avoid having to lead to?
This is extraordinarily difficult, and the Department of Education, working with the NASUWT, almost hand in glove, is ensuring that we design things in the way that we are being told by our key health professionals in particular is necessary, looking at what times will be open, looking at what days will be open, looking at not just the next 2 weeks of what would have been the term, but also the period over Easter when we may be reaching a peak and we will need to be able to continue to provide the service.
And finally, if you will, Chief Minister, a reminder of the key changes that have been announced this afternoon.
So a lot is changing in education. The way that our schools are going to be operating is going to change radically as from Monday. Please, if you're a parent and you need to avail yourself of the service that we're going to offer, indeed, if you wish to avail yourself of the service that we're going to offer, make sure that you send a note with your child to school tomorrow, latest Friday. We need to know what the numbers are. We need to rationalize what we do. We want to be able to feed your child as well if you're unable to deal with your child at the particular times when you might be involved with meals, etc. We want to provide the best service possible to those key workers in our economy as we continue to deal with the spread of this virus. Remember, one thing doesn't change, and that is the advice. You wash your hands for 20 seconds if you can. Catch it, bin it, kill it by washing your hands. All of these things are fundamental, and they will help us to slow the spread of the virus as much as these other more radical measures that we are going to have to take. And thank you to everyone in this community for working together as Team Gibraltar.